Srimad Bhagavatam, text 1, 10:28. Nunam vratasnan huta dineshwara samarchito ya asya gruhita panibhi pibanti ya sakhya adharam vratam muhur prajastriya samumuhur yadashayah. So here the Kuru ladies from their terraces are beholding Krishna departing from their city and are discussing among themselves the glories of Krishna. So they started by talking about how Krishna is not just an ordinary person, he is the same supreme person who existed before creation. So after talking about the transcosmic position of Krishna, now they are talking about how wonderful it is that that same Supreme Lord becomes easily accessible in this world, and how fortunate are those with whom he is intimately associated. So the previous verse they talked about the Kushalsthali, Dwarka, and how Dwarkavasis are so fortunate, and Dwarka is at a more fortunate than even Swarga because of the presence of Krishna. In this verse they talk about the Vrajavasis. So Noonam, certainly, Noonam is certainly they must have in the previous verse Vratasnana Huta Dineshwaraha Vratasnana Huta. So all these refer to different kinds of religious rituals that are performed for getting piety. Vrata is fasting or different kinds of vows that are taken. Snana is bathing. Huta is ahuti is offered in yajna. Dineshwaraha, Adina, by all these, Adi is others. Ishwaraha, Samarchito, they must have worshipped the Ishwara by all these. Ya asya gruhita panibhi, and gruhita panibhi, those whose hand he has accepted. So normally, when a man and a woman become united in marriage, at the time of Kanyadan, when the father entrusts his daughter to the husband. So at that time, he gives the hand. That's why we have the saying of uh, accept the hand of someone in marriage. So gruhita panibhi. So here they are first talking about the wives of Krishna, whom Krishna married actually. Pibanti ya sakhya adharamrutam muhur, and they get to drink the nectar of Krishna's lips in the course of their normal conjugal relationships, and that is when this affection is there. This way they get the intimate association of Krishna, and Vrajastriyaha Sammuhuryadashayah, and the Vrajastriyas, the Vrajavasis, especially the gopis, they sammuhu, they faint, they get overwhelmed just thinking about the fortune of the Dwarka queens. So here there are three different sets of though females who are devoted to Krishna that have been talked about. The Kuru ladies are offering the prayers, and they are thinking about the fortune of the Dwarka Vasi, specifically the Dwarka queens. And then they are thinking about how the gopis think about the Dwarka Vasis. So this is the nature of love, that when we think about the beloved, we don't think about that beloved in relationship with us. Certainly that is an important relationship, but we also understand that the person whom we love, they have relationship with others and they have emotions in those relationships. So the Kuru ladies, they have a affectionate relationship with Krishna, but they don't have a conjugal relationship with Krishna. It is Dwarkavasis, Dwarka queens, Mahishis, they have that conjugal relationship. And Vaja Gopis, whenever Krishna performed Ras Leela during his manifested pastimes in this world, they also enjoyed intimate affection with Krishna, but that is not what they would regularly have. And that's why when the Vrajastriyas, Vraja Gopis think about how fortunate the Dwarka queens are, they just by thinking about it, Sammumuhu Yadashaya. So that Supreme Lord who is completely transcendental, that he reciprocates with such rituals, reciprocates with such intimacy, that is extraordinary. Now, it is easy to think of this as mundane. oh, is it that just the normal male-female relationship is going on over here? But the Kuru Striyas, Kuru queens, uh, Kuru ladies, they point to the transcendence of all this by saying that actually to be able to get so close to Krishna, the Dwarka queens must have done a lot of vratasnan hutadine. So it is not an ordinary thing to get such to come close to Krishna and to especially come so close in an intimate relationship with Krishna. That is actually a very exalted position, and it is the result of great piety, great austerity, and certainly they must have done all this by which they could have come close to Krishna like this. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that if these things had been mundane, Shukdev Goswami would not have talked about these. Suta Goswami would not have discussed these in the assembly of sages. So, text 29. Ya Veerya Shulkena Ruta Swayamvare Pramathya Chaidya Pramukhani Shushuminaha Pradyumna Sambamba Sutadayo Para Yascharuta Bhauma Vadhe Sahasrashaha. Now they are going on and talking about the man. So Ya Veerya Shulkena Ruta Samvayamvare. So Shulka is price. So here it is said that in the Swayamvar, when a princess is to be won, what is the prize that is offered? The prize is one's heroism. It's a very poetic way of describing the Swayamvar. Rutaha. So Rutaha means taken away by force. So actually the whole point of a Swayamvar is to have a glorious person to get the hand of a princess, and that glory of the person is seen in various ways. One of the ways is that there is some target which is set, right? Shoot an arrow from here, or fight or curb these bulls or whatever. That is one way in which the virya is shown and is demonstrated by the potential suitors. The other is that if they can demonstrate their superiority over the other suitors by by defeating them, and then they take the princess by force. So here by force doesn't necessarily means against her will. By force means by by overcoming the others who are hostile. Pramathya chaidya pramukhani shushminaha. Pramathya, harassing. So Chaidya. Chaidya refers to Chaidya is the name of Shishupal. He was that is the name which is related to this kingdom. Pramukhan, headed by Shushuminaha. Shushminaha. Shushminaha means very powerful. So he's talking here about Krishna's. The Kuru ladies are talking about Krishna's heroism in abducting Rukmini even in the presence of Shishupal and other kings. Then Sambamba Sutadayo Apara, and similarly there are other queens also. Samba, Amba. So these are now the ladies are being referred to through their progeny. They have these children and their mothers. Yascharuta Bhauma Vadhe Sahasrasha. So those whom Krishna abducted, eventually they had these children, and the mothers are identified through their children. And apart from that, Bhauma Vadhe, after killing Bhauma, Sahasrasha Acharuta. So Bhauma Asura had abducted many princes, and he was threatening and tormenting them. When Krishna killed Bhauma Asura, he released all of them. And because these women had already been abducted by another man, so they were not, they would not have been accepted by anyone. And they said that our heart's aspiration has always, prayer has been that you accept us, O Krishna. And Krishna accepted their prayer and their request. So here we see a very striking contrast between Krishna and Ram. Now, because Sita had stayed with Ravana, even though she was his wedded wife, Ram separated himself from her by asking her to go to Valmiki's ashram or by sending her to Lakshmana there. On the other hand, these princesses were not even Krishna's queens. Krishna had no relationship with them, and so Lord Ram, in one sense, disrupted a relationship that was already there because of Sita's having stayed at Ravana's palace. Whereas Krishna, while in this case he established a relationship, he was not there, although the circumstances were very similar. Bhaumasura had also abducted the princes against their will, and Sita had been abducted by Ravana against his will. So why the difference? The difference is in purpose. Now, Lord Ram is Maryada Purushottam. Lord Ram is personifying various kinds of dharma, and the underlying mood of the whole Ramayana is the mood of sacrifice. So sacrifice for a higher cause is the defining mood of everything in the Ramayana. So if it had been a question of just rights, then yes, Sita definitely had a right to stay with Ram, and Ram could have said, the citizens don't have a right to criticize my wife. I'll finish those who have this audacity. But that way Ram could even have said that Dashrath does not have a right to exile me. I am the prince regent, and I deserve to be the king. I have done nothing wrong. Why should just for the sake of satisfying Kaikeyi, Ram be sent to the forest? I go to the forest. Ram could have thought like that. But the whole mood of the Ramayana, of all the characters practically speaking, whether it is Ram's accepting the exile sentence which Kaikeyi instituted through Dashrath, or whether Sita is insisting that I go with Ram, or Lakshman is insisting that I go with Ram and Sita, all these unify in in demonstrating the mood of sacrifice for some higher cause. And if we make Ram's exiling Sita into an issue of, say, injustice against women, then we completely misunderstand the purpose of the Ramayana. The Ramayana is demonstrating this principle of sacrifice, and that sacrifice is seen in the point that Ram, when he sent Sita to the forest, to Valmiki's ashram more specifically, not to the forest technically speaking, Sita did not have to live in the wilderness, but even after doing that, Ram did not accept any other wife. It was not just that Sita separation from Ram, Ram also accepted separation from Sita. So the whole Ramayana's mood is a mood of sacrifice. In contrast, Krishna is demonstrating another principle in the Bhagavatam. He is demonstrating the principle of being a heroic warrior, of being a glorious rescuer, and of being a illustrious Kshatriya ruler. So here he takes on the role of the redeemer of these queens who may have fallen in of these women who may have fallen in the eyes of society, of a conservative society, but he actually protected them, he uplifted them, and from the threat of being looked down as fallen women, they were exalted to the position of being the queens of Krishna. Krishna was practically the most powerful king of his times. So in this way, Krishna did a glorious service to these queens by accepting their hand. Text 30. Etaha param stritvam apastapeshalam nirasta shaucham batasadu kurvate yasam grihat pushkara lochana patir najatva apaiti ahriti bhirudisprushan. So etaha, all these queens, in the previous verse, the various queens that Krishna married have been talked about. Param stritvam, they attained the perfection of womanhood. What was the perfection? Apastapeshalam. Apastapeshalam. So without individuality, Prabhupada translates this. I'll come back to this. Nirasta shaucham. Nirasta shaucham means without purity. Batasadu kurvate. They were glorified. They became glorious. Their lives became glorified. Yasam grahat pushkara lochana patir. Yasam grahat, from whose houses Pushkaralochana, the lotus-eyed Lord, Krishna is lotus-eyed, Patir, as their husband, Apaiti, Najatu Apaiti, he did not go away. Arutibi, Hridis Prishan. So, so now the further fortune of these queens is talked about, that although in one sense uh, they they might not have been considered as pure because they had been abducted by Bhaumasura. So so some people nirasta saucham, they might not be considered pure, but Krishna actually made them glorious. Etah param stritvam. They were bestowed the perfection of womanhood by being accepted as Krishna's queens, and Krishna just did not make them nominally queens and just leave them and go away. No, Krishna actually stayed with them. Yasam grahat pushkaralochana patir. Krishna stayed with them as their husband, and Krishna actually pleased them by giving presentations, by giving gifts. He touched their hearts. So Krishna was not just a husband in letter or in law. He actually became a husband in heart for them, and in that way, all their heart's aspiration were fulfilled. So Krishna in this way blessed them. Now again, apastapeshanam, without individuality. What that means in this context is that actually there are so many queens, and we went to 16,000. Are the names of the 6,000 queens mentioned over there? But for Krishna, so it might just seem like a huge number for us to have somebody to have 16,000 queens. So they might seem like a nameless, gigantic number, but for Krishna, they were individuals, and Krishna reciprocated with each of them individually by acting as their husband. So Krishna would expand into 16,108 forms when he went to each of their palaces, and in this way, Krishna. So what is the point of all this? When the Kuru ladies are talking about Krishna doing this, they're just talking about how that Supreme Transcendental Lord is performing such astonishing pastimes wherein he is doing such heroic activities. So these heroic activities, from the material point of view also, they are extraordinary, but when we understand that from the spiritual perspective, this is a Supreme Lord who is doing this, then it becomes even more extraordinary. That person who is transcendental, he is manifesting in this world in such endearing ways, performing such sweet pastimes, and thereby demonstrating the sweetness of spiritual love that occurs eternally in the spiritual world, and that is manifested as a trailer when Krishna descends to this world. Text 31. Evam vidha gadantinam sagiraha purayoshitam nirikshanena binandanam sasmitena yayau hari evam vidha gadantinam. So here Sutta Goswami concludes the narration of the discussions between the various Kuru ladies as Krishna was departing. Now it's interesting, who are the Kuru ladies? They are specifically not mentioned. So we can easily understand that Draupadi would have been among them, Subhadra would have been among them. Draupadi is of course very devoted to Krishna. Subhadra is the sister of Krishna. And at the start of this chapter it was mentioned that it was for Subhadra's sake also that Krishna stayed on for a longer time. So these and the other ladies would have been there. So evam vidha gantinam. In this way, after they are talking and praying about Sagira Purayoshitam. So with their words, they offer their farewell. Purayoshitam. Yoshita is women, Pura is city, the ladies of the city of Kuru. Nirikshanena. As they were speaking, they were discussing about Krishna, and Krishna is departing, but Krishna sensed that there are his devotees, there are those who love him, they are beholding him, they are talking about him. So he turned back and he glanced affectionately at them. Abhinandan, he greeted them. There are different ways of greeting. There is shaking hands, there is smiling, and just there is a simple glance is also a form of greeting or a form of farewell. Sasmitena yayau hari, sasmitena. So they were all discussing all this sweetly, these beautiful things about Krishna, and Krishna looked at them and smiled. He appreciated the expression of affection that they were offering through this, and Yayau Harihi, so he departed. So here Krishna, so the narrative of the Kuru ladies now ends over here, and Krishna's departure will be described from this text onwards till the end of the chapter. Departure and journey towards Dwarka. The next chapter will describe his entry into Dwarka. Text 32. Ajata Shatru Prutanam Gopithaya Madhudvishaha Parebhya Shankitah Snehat Prayunka Chaturanginim. So he engaged four divisions of soldiers. Now Krishna had actually come there to protect the Pandavas, to assist the Pandavas, and Krishna is by far the greatest warrior. He is God, he is the protector of everyone, and he doesn't need anyone's protection. But Yudhishthir Maharaj, out of his affection, he wanted to express his affection towards Krishna, and for that purpose, he deployed four divisions of armies. And of course, from a strategic point of view, or from a political point of view, there was also a practical fear of reprisals. The Pandavas' enemies had been killed, but sometimes their brothers, their relatives, some of them were still alive, and they might launch a surprise attack for taking revenge. And so that's some amount of protection was required. That's what Yudhishthira Maharaj felt, and therefore he arranged for this protection. So Gopithaya, for giving protection to Madhudvishaha. So now, by using the word Madhudvishaha, Sutta Goswami conveys that actually no protection was required, because this person, what can the earthly enemies harm a person who has overcome far greater enemies? Even demons who were threats to devatas have been overcome by this person, but still, for its protection, Yudhishthira Maharaj arranged Parebhya Shankita Snehat, from the fear of the enemies and out of his own affection. So normally, when a person whom we love very much is going off, then we would like to give them a grand farewell. And one way of giving a grand farewell was by having a grand procession accompany him as to see him off, to escort him. And that's what Yudhishthira Maharaj did as Krishna was departing. Text 33. Atha duragatan shauri kauravan virahaturan sanivartya drudham snigdhan prayat svanagarim priyai. Atha duragatan. So, duragatan, for a long distance they accompanied Shauri Lord Krishna, Kauravan virahaturan. So now we see the Bhagavatam repeatedly uses the word Kaurava to refer to the Pandavas. This has happened earlier also once or twice, because now those who were called as those who had arrogated to themselves the title Kauravas, they were dead. Actually speaking, the Pandavas were also Kauravas, because Kaurava is a generic reference to all descendants of the Kuru dynasty. Just like, say, if we have a state like Maharashtra in India, then all Maharashtrians are automatically Indians. So Maharashtrians are a subset of Indians. So like that, the Pandavas were technically, factually speaking, a subset of the Kauravas. They were also Kauravas. But because the Pandavas did not have ruling power, and the ruling power of the Kuru dynasty was with the sons of Dhritarashtra, so the Mahabharata usually refers to the sons of Dhritarashtra as the Kauravas. So suppose, for example, say the residents of Maharashtra are for some reason disenfranchised. They don't have the power to vote in Indian elections. Then they might be contrasted, okay, Indians and Maharashtrians, because Maharashtrians are not included in the Indian set. But if Maharashtrians also later become enfranchised, and in fact, if all of India has no one except Maharashtrians, then naturally Maharashtrians will also be later referred as Indians. So like that, here, now there are no Kauravas remaining except for Yuyutsu, who was almost like an illegitimate son of Dhritarashtra. He was a son through a Shudrani, so he had no power of royal inheritance. So the responsibility of continuing the Kuru dynasty was on the Pandavas, the sons of Pandu. So now that's why with their position as the sole bearers of the Kuru dynasty, they are referred to here by Kauravas. So Kauravan Virahaturan, they were Atura, they were very much distressed, very overcome by emotions of separation from Krishna. Sannivartya Drudham Snigdhan. Sannivartya means gently persuaded, politely persuaded. Drudham Snigdhan, those who had very strong affection for him. Prayat Swanagarim Priyai. So, although the Pandavas accompanied Krishna for a long distance, and finally Krishna told them, now it's enough. Now you can go back. It's like if somebody is seeing us off, they may come out till the door, or they may come out till the vehicle, or they may come in the vehicle, say till the airport, or they may come in the airport till the departure lounge, or they may get some special permission and come till the even the takeoff point. And when finally, when the airplane is about to depart, we say, now you please, now you can leave. So like that, the Pandavas, out of their affection, came till a long distance, Duragatan. But finally, Krishna said, now, please, you can depart. And they finally reluctantly accepted and they departed. And now it will be described how Krishna went through various regions. Text 34. Kuru Jangal Panchalan Shurasenan Sayamunan Brahmavartam Kurukshetram Matsyan Sarasvatanatha. So here a list of some of the areas is given. Kuru Jangal. Prabhupada translates that as the area of the province of Delhi. So Hastinapur is roughly the modern, what modern is called Delhi in India. But in that, if we consider Delhi as a district or a city, a province is a broader area. So Kuru Jangal, Panchalan. Panchalan is the kingdom of Panchali of Drupada. So Prabhupada explained that refers roughly to what we call today as Punjab. Then Shurasenan, the reign of Shurasena, Prabhupada gives a rough geographical correlate as Uttar Pradesh. Sa Yamunan. So Yamuna, Sa Yamunan means that which is in the banks of Yamuna. So the area through which Yamuna flowed. Brahmavartam. So Brahmavartam refers to a part of Uttar Pradesh. Kurukshetram. Kurukshetra, of course, is the place where the battle had taken place, and Kurukshetra is the place where through which Krishna passed. Now, Kurukshetra is a geographical place right now. Matsyan Sarasvatan Atha. So Matsyan, the kingdom of the Matsya, and Sarasvatan. Sarasvatan refers to again a part of Punjab where the roughly we could say Saraswati river flows. So these are some of the places through which Krishna passed. Marudhanvan Atikramya, this is text 35. Marudhanvam Atikramya Sauvira Bhirayo Paran Anartan Bhargavo Pagach Shratanvaho Manag Vibhu. So, further areas described. Maru is the place of the desert, so that refers to Rajasthan. Dhanvam, Madhya Pradesh. Prabhupada says where water is scanty. Now some parts of Madhya Pradesh are like that. Sauvira Bhirayo. So Sauvira refers to Saurashtra. Abhirayo. Krishna is going towards Gujarat. So from Saurashtra, he goes to part of Gujarat. Abhirayo Paran. Like this, he came to the western side of India. Shratan Vaho. So Abhirayo Paran Anartan Bhargavopa Pagach. So Anartan refers finally to the province of Dwarka. So there is the city of Dwarka and there is the province of Dwarka. So Krishna through this path has finally come to the area of Dwarka. Bhargava refers to, again, that's the address used to refer by Sutta Goswami to Shaunakrushi. Upagat. By the time they reach, they were overtaken by Shranta, fatigue. Manag, Vibhu, because of the long journey. So they reached. So the Lord proceeded through this path and finally reached the destination. Now, here Prabhupada gives us in his purport the mood in which we should stress things and we should not stress things in the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada says We may leave the matter for expert geologists to research because the changing universe has different phases of historical development. We are satisfied that the Lord has now reached his own province, Dwarka Dham, from the Kuru provinces. So the point is that when we look at scripture, we can look at it as a historical document, we can look at it as a geographical document, we can look at it as a sociological document, we can look at it as a cultural document, and all this is, there are useful ways of looking at scripture. But the essential message of scripture is a spiritual message, the message of how we can come closer to Krishna. And if we get so caught in trying to precisely find out, okay, which is this area, which is that area, what is the exact path that Krishna took, and if that becomes our consuming focus, and we lose track of the point that actually this is the Supreme Lord who has descended, and it is the Supreme Lord to whom I want to be attracted. Certainly, those who are specialists in the field of geography or history, they can, and they if that is their inspiration, they should do this kind of research for further gaining and sharing a clearer understanding of the historical or geographical dimensions of how Krishna's pastimes unfolded in this world. But even without these understanding, we can, by studying Krishna Leela, become devoted to him. So we shouldn't, while approaching Krishna's Krishna Leela, Krishna's books like the Bhagavatam, we shouldn't get distracted from the main purpose. While fulfilling the main purpose, while serving the main purpose, if some other field are studied, that is fine. But we should not let ourselves get distracted. Last text now, 36. Tatra tatraha tatra tatratyayir hari pratyudyatarhana sayam bheje disham paschad gavishto gam gatastada. The first line here is a poetic alliteration. Tatra tatra ha tatra tatratyayir. So tatra tatra words comes thrice over here. At those various places, it so happened that tatra atyayir, those who were living over there, those places, Harihi, that Supreme Lord, pratyudyata arhanaha, they offered their respects and worship to him through various presentations. Sayam, evening, bheje, they were, by the time they were overcome, disham, direction, paschat, gavishtham. So it is said that while traveling, the Lord suspended his activities so that he could perform the evening rituals, and after performing the evening rituals, they gavishto gam gatastada, that after the evening rituals were performed, especially after the sunset occurred, the Lord did this dutifully. So that means the Bhagavatam here concludes the 16th, this 10th chapter, describing Krishna's travels with this note that Krishna performed dharmic activities such as the evening rituals. So just like there's the Sandhya Vandanam, there's the Gayatri mantra that is chanted by the Dvijas. Dvijas means the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. They all chant this mantra, and thus they perform the evening rituals. We see in the Mahabharata also Arjuna and warriors, they would perform morning rituals, they would perform evening rituals. So the idea is that when we are living in this world, life is a journey, and this journey has phases. So morning, evening, the times when we perform Sandhya, they mark transition points in this journey of life. And sometimes you can get so caught in the day-to-day nitty-gritties of life that we may forget the ultimate spiritual realities which we are ultimately pursuing in our life. So the periodic breaks that are there, which if they are observed diligently, they reorient our consciousness and they help us to focus on Krishna, focus on ultimate reality. It's Krishna. So this is an activity of Krishna in which he is performing, he is demonstrating the kind of dutifulness that we should exhibit while doing our duties. Thank you very much. We'll continue with